Well, that conversation will happen, but in the meantime, we have with us here, because it is Children's Day today. Nigeria is not, of course, the only country talking about it. And most of the time, when we talk about children, we talk about education, we talk about health. Hardly do we talk about some other issues like that. But since it concerns children and we talk about children, we talk about education, let's have a little conversation around that this morning. Mariah Ojikutu joins us. She is the founder of Flow. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll find out what all of that means. And Professor Abiola Awosika joins us. She's an educationist and CEO Sanctum Startup College. She joins us virtually from the UK. Thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin with you, Prof. I am looking at the national policy on education for Nigeria now, and one of the things that I'm seeing in Section 1, Sub 2, is the overall philosophy of the nation is not limited to living in harmony and unity as one indivisible, indissoluble democratic nation and all of that. But it also said that Nigeria's philosophy of education is based on education for national development and social change, among several others. In terms of the instruments that bolster, or influence our education, I'm talking about the soft instruments, soft infrastructure like policies, laws, and the rest of that. How helpful do you see those being in fulfilling the overall philosophy and goals of education in Nigeria?
Well, thank you so much. What you read is very vague. However, we cannot have education stand on its own. It is very important, but it cannot stand on its own. Because what good is education for our kids if they're not healthy? What good is education if it doesn't impact the community? What good is education if it doesn't affect the environment? So merely putting a policy or a clause that says something is sustainable or not doesn't expand on what education needs to do for our children. A lot has to be done on our curriculum. A lot has to be done on access and equity. A lot has to be done on just even getting them ready for the real world, startups, small businesses, so they don't get out of school and start looking at the government. It's a multifaceted problem that we need to tackle one at a time.
Well, Prof, still on that, I'm looking at one of the, further down the document, still in that section 1. It says the quality of instruction at all levels of education shall be oriented towards inculcating the following values: respect for the worth and dignity of the individual, faith in man's ability to make rational decisions, moral and spiritual principles in interpersonal human relations, shared responsibility for the common good of society, promotion of the physical, emotional, and psychological development of all children, and acquisition of functional skills and competencies necessary for self-reliance. I see that you are smiling, Prof.
I'm smiling because all of these doesn't say anything. It doesn't tell me what I'm supposed to do for these children. I mean, we have flowery policies and it's good. But then when it comes to brass tacks, what does it imply? How do we know how to spend money or spend the resources or train the teachers that will inculcate all of these things that we're talking about? We're not, it's good, I hear, but what are we doing when the rubber meets the road? I mean, I just saw a video of a school in the Northeast just recently They were under trees from SS1 to SS3, under trees, and they only have one teacher. Gosh, I don't think we're celebrating our children very well with a situation like that. So, yes, if the policymakers want to use their policy, that's fine. If they want to use flowery words, that's fine. But tell me what I'm supposed to be doing when I have 100 kids in my care, and how do I make the world sustainable for them?
Okay, well, let me come to you, Ms. Ojikutu. You heard the prof, and is it any comfort to you that some of the things listed in this National Policy on Education, the 2013 version, is it of any comfort to you?
The policy itself sounds great, but being implemented is a different thing entirely. So there's the policy and there's actually doing it. But what we see on a day-to-day is not comforting at all. I work with kids and I work with their mindset. And when you go into low-income schools, they're hungry. They haven't eaten, they can't even speak they can't even speak all. So where are you going to start from? So it's almost like before my impact can be made, 10 things need to happen before that, and then we're all stuck. So I want to solve this, but I need to solve 10 other things, find people to do it. And it now it looks impossible, and that's where the issue is. If the policies could work, and like Mrs. Awosika said, there were no kids under the trees, great, but that's not the case, and that's where the issue is.
It sounds like both of you are saying that even the schools themselves, the parents, the teachers, beg your pardon, the schools, the teachers, the institutions of education don't even have an understanding that such provisions, that these are part of their responsibilities.
Yes, and even the people that teach in school, if you really see, that's not their dream job. So you're trying to teach the next generation.
Pause. So the people who are teaching, most of them, it's not their dream job. So it's not like their own calling. It's
based on, let me just do it. This is a job that I can do. So you enter into a school and then they're not even happy doing it. So there's already an issue from the start. So you go into other countries and they're happy. They want to impact the child. Sometimes that's not even the case. So the whole system is it's not working at all. So the conditions aren't great. The people that are teaching aren't great as well. So where do they really start from? Where is the hope that the child would have? So there's a lot of reconstruction that needs to be done. And they might not even be happy because they're not even getting paid well enough. I don't think education is given what it needs to excel in terms of the funding, in terms of the time, in terms of the people, the training. There's so much more that could be done. As of 2022, apparently there were 20 million kids out of school in this country. That is more than a whole country in some other places. So how does it work? So those ones are even out of schools, and there are lots more that are in schools that is not even functioning at all. I remember going to about a year ago, and literally everyone was in one class, whether you're in primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, primary 4. The teacher could not speak English. She was tired. She was, oh, this is GS1, be doing this one, GS2, be doing this one. I was like, how are they meant to do anything? We went there to make a roof for them, but just let being discouraged, because it's not roof that is the issue. They need to change everything. And I know for one that if I'm not eating by like 12, my brain is not functioning well. And I eat well. So imagine kids that are still growing up, not eating, not doing all these things, walking to school, and then they even get there. The person that's even trying to teach them doesn't even understand what they're doing as well. So it's sad.
Well, Prof, the issue that Ms. Ojikutu raised now just brought to mind another challenge. Now, she also mentioned something that I heard from another person who's been working with children on Saturday, that we have about 20 million children out of school in Nigeria. But he went further to say that we have at least the number of children out of school, perhaps additionally because there are no schools to put them in. So he is speculating that we have something in the region of 20,000 school shortfall in the country. How significant is that? What do you think even necessitated that gap in the first place?
Well, it's significant. Yes, it is significant. I mean, you can't have 20 million kids and not worry about what they're going to do. At the end of the day, they don't get an education. And it doesn't mean classroom education. It means any form of education that will enlighten their minds. So it is dangerous for the nation to have that many kids not in any form of school at all. But then we have been voting money for education for so long, and we're still short. Where does the money go? Who is holding people responsible to build the schools that these children are supposed to be going to? You know, everything that is wrong with the Nigerian child are things that the government is supposed to provide. So the government is failing these kids. The reason we have so many private schools in places like Lagos State or your state, you know, or Osun State maybe, is because the government, they dropped the ball. And so the private people are saying, okay, let's mop up some of this, you know, so that our kids, you know, would have a very good education. So we need to put money in education. Maybe we don't have the 26% that the UN recommends, but please, at least, you know, close to 20, 22. I mean, we hear people misspending billions of naira. These are the children's money. Let's spend it on them.
Prof, just a quick follow-up. Yeah, my apologies. Just a quick follow-up. From what part of what Ms. Ojikutu said also is that she went to a school in Lagos and that, number one, 3 classes were in the same class. And number 2 is the fact that some of them may not have eaten. And you also talked about children on the trees in the northeast who haven't eaten. Then it just occurred to me, we did have a homegrown school feeding program. Was that, in your opinion, any significant intervention to at least get children interested in education?
Well, you see, the states that had the homegrown meal program, they did very well at that time. You know, because you know more kids came into the coffers of the educational system at that time. And so I don't know what is happening with the school meals now, but essentially, it's just like you wanna preach to me, but I'm hungry. I won't listen to you. So you wanna teach me, and I'm hungry. I can't listen to you. You know, it's not just me ignoring you. It's the fact that I do not have the energy in my system to listen to you. So yes, let's provide everything that these children need, you know, to help them to sit down and get a good education. Sometimes, in fact, it's been proven that 80% of success in school is showing up. And if we can get the kids to show up because of food, then we can, you know, latch onto that opportunity and train them. So it's you see, it's a multifaceted, intertwined problem that we have to tease out and sort it out one way or another. Otherwise, we do not have a future for our kids.
Well, Ayo has focused largely on the education policy, but Nigeria also has a Child Rights Act that was signed in 2003 and has been domesticated across many states. Now, the Child Rights Act is supposed to ensure that children are protected, they have right to education, they have right from they have right to protection from abuse and exploitation, a right to health care, right to survival and development, right to participation, even in political participation. But when we look at where we currently are, we know clearly that we're falling short of many of the parameters and many of the aspirations of the Child Rights Act. I'm just wondering, you're a professor in education, if for the states that are interested in correcting, because I think that what we must strive to do right now is strive to correct the problems that we have on the ground. For the states that are interested in correcting, where would you say they start from? You've talked about education. Are there other areas that you would like to look at?
I'd like to look at health. The health of the child, the mind, the well-being, and that brings me to the home. What kind of situation are these children living in? Are they being abused? What program does the government have for children living with abuse? What is the government doing about the health of the children? Can they pick them up and go to a hospital and they would be attended to without, too much difficulty? So we need to start with the health of the children. Not only that, we need to, what are we doing to protect these children, not even mentally, but even physically? How do we get them, not to be kidnapped? How do we protect, their future? So I would think when we look at education, then we look at healthcare, and then we look at their community. What kind of community are they living in? What does the community do for them? Does the community protect them? We'll look at their environment. Yes, we're saying a green economy right now, but then you can't survive in a green economy if you can't, even survive in the one you have right now. So those are some of the areas that I would look at, for protecting these children.
Well, certainly health is very important, but you've just mentioned something also equally important, which is the family, the home. And there are big questions now as to, where the family currently sits in the scheme of things. Many families are struggling to survive. Father, mother, usually outside. In some instances, the home is broken. You only have maybe a parent to cater for sometimes many children. You also have instances where cultural beliefs and practices, find children outside by themselves, left uncatered to and uncared for, leaving them very vulnerable in many instances. Would you say that you've seen sufficient zeal or drive, even on the part of government, to try and reverse some of these things, to impress upon members of society that the family, the smallest unit of society, is very vital for the children to be able to survive in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the government and zeal is concerned, I think we're not there yet. Now, some states have made provisions. You have places to call if you need help. but mostly they're NGOs that are in this area. So I don't think the government is positioned to help at all in this area. There's some iota of help, but not many.
As a society, would you say that we too have become complicit in it? We've sat idly by without really doing much to try and restore the values which many people grew up with, which they still talk about. The fact that it takes a village to raise a child. The fact that when they see something going wrong with one child in the community, an alarm is raised, or, another person corrects what he or she perceives to be going wrong. Maybe later on, that child might get reported, or the situation in which the child was found might get reported. Would you say that members of society too in their communities are becoming complicit in what we're currently seeing in our communities today?
Yes, we are. Well, you know why? Because parents don't want their child, to be touched by anyone else. So they're going to resist you helping them. I mean, we have situations where we have tried to intervene in the child's life, and the parents have said no. So if the parents don't allow you to help, how can you? But nonetheless, we still have churches, for example, where you can do that. I don't know about mosques, but religious centers, you can still get involved in the child's life and make a difference.
Mm. Let me go to our guest in Lagos now. Mr. Ojikutu, I do not know what really propelled you to get involved in, trying to see what it is you can do as a private individual or as a group of individuals to intervene in the education sector, because you talked about visiting some communities that are underserved, underprivileged communities, and you've been able to make a difference in those communities. Would you say that we're seeing more and more Nigerians understanding the fact that this cannot be left alone in the hands of government? I do not know how you read government's reaction to the situation we currently have on the ground, but would you say we're seeing more and more people understanding the fact that if the children are going to be our future, and they're currently not catered to, particularly in underprivileged communities, then we are in trouble? Would you say we're seeing more and more of that sort of understanding?
I think I might be a bit biased because I surround myself with like-minded people like myself. So if it's getting bigger, I am not sure. But we are definitely there, and we're trying our best to help. And like Mrs. Awosika said, there is help from the private sector as well. There's some funding coming in. So if you have a good initiative, you could get funding for that, and you could actually make a difference. I see that happening more and more, but I don't know that there's a lot of us. But us that are here, we're trying our best to make it work, I'd say.
Mm. When you started visiting these communities, what would you say was the biggest shock for you, apart from the total lack of infrastructure that you witnessed?
It just didn't seem like anything was moving forward. It seemed like as we came, the next week, it would be the same thing as well. So the biggest shock was just the fact that it just didn't seem like anything was going on. So it's just like we'll try our best to do something here and there, but is it really making a difference? Are they going home and continue what they're doing as well? The next day, when the person that's coming to teach them in class, are they also helping them as well? Or are we just coming in for one day, making an impact, and then going as well? Every time we would leave, it would break my heart just saying that, is this going to continue or is this going to stop? So that's one thing that I would say that really broke my heart. And the biggest thing for me is that I just want people that are passionate about schools to teach in schools, and not just people that just want to get a job or feel like it's the only job that they can get. It's been a long time that I've seen people that are passionate in schools is usually just, okay, I'll do it if I have to.
Well, we do know that that is going to also, you know, the economics of it cannot be shifted. I mean, if teachers are consistently under-remunerated, it's certainly not going to be attractive for people to want to go into that profession, you know, just out of passion. So as someone who has intervened in the private sector and from an individual perspective, if you were to, you know, if you had the ears of government today, both at the federal and even at the state level, what would you be telling them? What are the areas that they ought to look at with regards to education of children?
Honestly, everything. But I would say the infrastructure, first of all, making sure that the teachers are trained well in the different aspects of what a child needs. Also just helping them see what is going on around the world, just so they can see how backwards we are as well and how far we need to go. Because sometimes when you see, you can dream and see what it could be like as well. And just making sure that every child is getting to their potential. Every child is not the same. The way a child learns is not the same. Their learning styles, the way they assimilate. A child might be good at maths. Just help them to achieve what they are supposed to be so they can take their place in society. Not everybody has to be a doctor. Like, there's so many things that everyone can do. And I feel like if everyone just takes their place, it would be great. So in terms of their ears, please, let's train the teachers well, and let's make sure that the school is in a good condition, and let them feed, because they really need to eat in order to think. I'm hungry now, and it's like 11 o'clock. So yes, I'll say that.
I was sorry about your hunger. I think I can relate. But let me quickly circle back to, you know, what it was like when we were growing up. I do not know what it was like when you were growing up, but do you want to reflect on what it was like on Children's Day, or, you know, the memories that you have of Children's Day, and what you would like the average Nigerian child to be able to celebrate from your own memories as a child?
So I was fortunate to enjoy my Children's Day. I think it was one of the best days of the year. And it was a day where we went out, we probably went for a party, we had fun, we ate. It was a day that Mommy's Children's Day, so it's my day. And honestly, it would be nice for every Nigerian child to feel that as well. Every Nigerian child to know that they are special to their parents, they are loved, and people are out there backing them. Honestly, I was listening to Mr. Awosika, and I was just nodding my head. The family, the home is so important. You would be surprised how much pushback we get from the home. You see us trying to work in schools and the parents are pushing back. And sometimes I can't even blame them, because they also don't know better as well. They didn't grow up in that way as well. So there's a lot of engineering that has to be done as well. A child that goes to school but goes to go and hawk all day after school and still needs to do their assignments as well. But their mom also hawked as well. So it's just really trying to understand that there's a time for everything as well. So sometimes I look at these parents and I don't blame them. It's this society that they've been put into, but just trying to re-engineer that and make sure that every child can really just be a child and grow in the right way would honestly make Children's Day worth it, because now it's just, it's not great. It's not great.
Well, I have to salute you for your efforts, but I really want to explore a bit more of that conversation you've had, because I was just about to ask you whether you and your friends have been able to have any conversation with parents of the children that you teach. And it's interesting that you mentioned that and you say that you've experienced a pushback. Pushback in what respect? Is it that they're unhappy that you're there? What precisely are they unhappy about?
They're not unhappy that their child are in school. They're unhappy that they can't do the other things that they need them to do, such as work after school, or they're unhappy that the child is speaking up about things that's going on in the home that they don't necessarily want anyone to know about, or they're just unhappy because now they have to take care of their other kids because this child is now going to school. So it's not about them not happy about the education. It's more like a selfish point of view and just what they're used to, that when I was your age, I did this for my own mother. So you should be doing the same for me as well. And we need you in order for us to feed.
Well, Prof, let me ask you, part of the information that's been put out already now, how do you think the Nigerian child feels? I mean, one recent data put out says that children between ages 0 and 15 or thereabout make up about 42% of Nigeria's population. If you could take some kind of microscope or whatever and look into the mind or the heart of the Nigerian child, do you think they would feel celebrated?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, the audio went off.
Can you hear me now?
The question.
Can you hear me now, Prof?
Okay, I hear you now.
Good. I said if you could borrow into the Nigerian child's mind, about 0 to 15%, 0 to 15 years old make up about 42% of Nigeria's population. If you could borrow into their minds, do you think they would feel celebrated?
Well, because I'm a child, any day out of school, you're celebrating me. But to an adult, seeing the situation that these children are in, we're not yet at the point of celebration. It's good that we have 42% of us in that age category, because what that means is we're a young country. And so if we mold these children very well, they can bring the future that we expect. But without that, then if we squander their youthfulness, then it will be a sorry state, because they are the future. And it's not just getting them educated, it's also making sure that they're in their right minds, that they are healthy, that they would serve their community, that they would propel the nation to a great future. But if we do not do our homeworks right now, then that age group will be squandered. And we don't want that. And so we have schools now that as part of their curriculum, and in addition to the WAEC and NECO curriculum, they're now adding technology, they're now adding entrepreneurship, they're adding, digital skills, things that will help the children become full-grown, responsible adults that would do all the things that you read in your policy earlier at the beginning of the program.
Interestingly, Prof, it's your policy as well. But, we've had quite some insight this morning, and I'm just hoping that everyone who needs to pay attention is listening right now and will take a cue from some of the insight that we have received from you this morning. Professor Abiola Awosika, an educationist and CEO of Sanctum Startup College, thank you so much for your time this morning. We've also had Mariah Ojikutu. Miss Mariah Ojikutu is founder of Flow. Thank you again for your time. Truly appreciate it. Well, we need money, as Prof has talked about, to fund the schools, and that brings us to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily.